For years, people have theorized about what a strong Islamic population might look like in Europe. Some, like myself, warned of cultural takeovers. There were theories of civil unrest, parallel societies, even eventual balkanization. Most dismissed as paranoia, the stuff of internet forums and right-wing fever dreams. But what just happened in England might be the clearest warning yet. In Birmingham, one of the UK's largest cities and home to one of its most powerful Muslim blocs, Jews were just banned from attending a football game. Imagine this happening to any other group or ethnicity, but it did. This isn't a hypothetical anymore. It's not a dystopian novel or a prediction on some message board. It's real. So here's what actually happened. In Birmingham, England's second largest city, Jewish fans were just banned from attending a football game. The match was between Aston Villa and Maccabi Tel Aviv, an Israeli club, set to take place at Villa Park. And well, it's the Europa League, so not to be a total snob, but not that important of a game. Now, the official excuse was safety concerns. But of course, that's merely the official excuse. Authorities claimed that allowing Israeli fans in could lead to violence, citing what happened previously in Amsterdam, when Islamic mobs attacked Jewish supporters after a match. That single incident became the justification. Honestly, it reminded me of Hamid Koskan, who, if you remember, burned the Quran in front of the Turkish embassy. The excuse the British court subsequently used to charge him was the fact that a deranged person tried to murder him while he was doing this. Imagine that. But we do need to cut through the noise and speak plainly here. This wasn't about safety. This was about fear. Fear of the same mobs who threatened violence if Jews dared to show up.
Wallah, you know what's going to happen. What's going to happen is you'll get battered. That's what's going to happen. Physical. I'm telling you, you go to the immigrant areas, you will get battered.
Fear of the protests that would erupt outside the stadium. Fear of being called Islamophobic if anyone stood their ground. Just take a look at what this preacher said right before the ban.
Remember, Rahma is in its place. It's in its place. When the Tel Aviv fans come to Birmingham in a few weeks, we will not show them Rahma in Birmingham.
And so officials folded. Police, local councillors, and even the stadium's advisory group all quietly agreed that it was simpler to just ban the Jews, not the rioters, not the ones actually making the threats. This is what is known as mob rule. Officials giving in to intimidation because it's easier than confronting the people causing the problem. And what makes it worse is that this isn't happening in Tehran or Karachi. This is happening in England, the same country that once defined free speech, liberty, and equal rights under the law. Many people might pretend that this is because of the war in Gaza, which has been halted for now. Now, before we get to the next part, if you're enjoying this video so far, please remember to give the video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and consider signing up on Patreon, which comes with a ton of perks. Now, in truth, these are ancient blood feuds resurfacing on the streets of England. Birmingham in the 1950s used to be something like 99.6% white British. Today, that number is rapidly falling under 40%, and the white demographic is poised to, for the first time in the city's history, to not be a majority. If we drill this down and just look at Aston, the very area surrounding Villa Park, things become even clearer. According to the 2021 census, over 70% of Aston's residents identify as Muslim. 70%. A once English district now transformed entirely by mass migration and demographic change. So who are replacing the English more specifically? Pakistanis. I prefer to say like it is instead of Asians or some sanitized label. This diaspora is much younger than their aging white counterpart, and at a political level, rather organized and active. Just take a look at this, where they are campaigning for the building of an airport in Mirpur. Now, let me give you some examples of how strong this political bloc is becoming, and this is just out of Birmingham. Their current mayor, Zafar Iqbal, Pakistani. Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, also from Birmingham, also Pakistani. Tahir Ali, another MP, Pakistani. And there are a number of other councillors who are the exact same. But one certainly has stood out. particularly when it came to this issue. His name is Ayub Khan, who was born in Pakistan. Mr. Khan has been making the rounds because he's the one who led the campaign to stop Jews from attending this game. If you don't know who he is, he's part of the Muslim Votes Matter movement, or the so-called Gaza Independents, who got elected to push Islamist policies in the British Parliament. He started a campaign, and now he is celebrating his win. Of course, once again, he's gaslighting everybody by using the Islamic mobs from Amsterdam as justification for this racially and religiously charged decision. See, across the Western world, especially off the back of the Gaza war, legislation has been allowed to pass that either infringes on your free speech while simultaneously empowering the voices of people like Ayub Khan. The public square is no longer organic. That's exactly why I use Proton VPN and why I think you should too. They're based in Switzerland, outside the reach of US, EU, UK and Australian law. They don't keep logs and are built by the same team behind Proton Mail. When the UK passed its surveillance laws, Proton VPN became the #1 app on the App Store. Their stealth protocol beats censorship firewalls. Secure Core routes your traffic through privacy-first countries, and NetShield blocks trackers before they ever reach you. I've used Proton Mail since Australia announced sweeping surveillance laws last year, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it's now essential. If you want to protect your privacy and support this channel, hit the link below to get up to 60% off Proton VPN. Ayub Khan got a lot of pushback, justifiably by the way, for this. Jack Ranking said, Ayub thinks that Jews should be banned from football matches. He is an unintegrated, racist anti-Semite. Nick Dixon on X put it plainly. Our politics now largely consists of banning things, and sometimes people, to stop the foreigners we've imported being violent. Jim Bethel called Ayub a bully. This account perhaps laid out the truth more plainly. I won't allow anyone to pretend this isn't what everyone knows it is. A Muslim who has used Muslim votes in order to get into parliament and push an Islamist agenda that subverts British democracy. He is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Ironically, even Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer called the decision wrong, saying no one should be barred from a football match because of who they are. But his words came after the damage was done. One tweet that perhaps caught my eye even more was from Drew Pavlo, who made a rather great point with this tweet. Ayub Khan on paper looks like he is truly a highly educated, assimilated migrant, and it lists all of his accomplishments, and Drew goes, and still he harbors tribal, ancestral, anti-Semitic views from Pakistan. To that, this was my response. Islamic belief supersedes everything on that list. I indeed disagree with Drew. I don't think he is assimilated. In fact, I think he's the opposite of proper assimilation. Britain bankrupted itself defending Europe from the Nazis in the 20th century. In fact, even Aston Villa, the very club now at the centre of this controversy, once showed more courage than Britain's institutions do today. In 1938, they toured Nazi Germany. They were told to perform the Nazi salute before kickoff as a gesture of respect to Hitler's regime. They refused. They walked onto that field without bowing to tyranny, and the German crowd jeered them for it. That was the spirit of Britain then, a quiet defiance of authoritarianism, even in something as small as a football match. And now, almost a century later, that same club city has banned Jews from attending a game, not because they posed a threat, but because officials feared offending violent Islamic mobs. Aston Villa once refused to salute fascism, now Birmingham salutes fear. And some have falsely been saying, but oh no, these are just to prevent violent hooligans. You only need to look at what people like Zara Sultana are saying here to know that this isn't in fact the case. This is the danger when a society starts bowing to violent Islamists. Not because they've won hearts or ideas, but because they've mastered fear. It's the oldest form of control in history. Make people afraid to speak, afraid to act, afraid to offend, and soon you don't need to conquer them. They'll police themselves. And make no mistake, this doesn't stop with Jews. It never does. The French learned that lesson when they bowed to Islamist outrage after Charlie Hebdo. And still the killings came. Teachers murdered in the street, writers forced into hiding, and politicians assassinated. Once you grant violence a veto, it keeps demanding more. This is how civilizations decay. A football ban here, a cancelled play there, a silenced teacher, a threatened journalist. Each act feels small, defensible, even sensible, but the pattern is unmistakable. fear disguised as tolerance. Even Australia should pay attention. Europe is a canary in the coal mine. Once you normalize intimidation, once you start accommodating the most aggressive voices, you lose the cultural immune system that protects freedom itself. History shows appeasement never ends with peace. It ends with obedience. And that same fear, that same intimidation is now striking at the heart of the modern West, the United Kingdom.
In the neon haze of a broken dawn, steel towers hum, but the wild runs on.